Welcome to the Big Picture Show with your host, Josh Tickell. We are the new media, so don't forget to like and share this podcast. Hello, and welcome to the Big Picture Show. This is episode number 2, and I'm your host, Josh Tickell. We've got a great show for you today. We've got 3 guests, very special people. The first guest is Rebecca Harrell Tickell. Some of you may know her better as my spouse and co-directing producing partner. She's got an incredible field report she's bringing. We've also got Reno, the co-founder of a superfood company based here in Ojai, California called Boku Superfoods. And then we have a very special guest, an environmental hero, a well-known actor from the TV series Arrow, Paul Blackthorne. He is going to share some of his incredible environmental adventures with us. Now, before we bring on our first guest, a little bit of news. It's been a smoky week here in California, where wildfires have claimed the lives of no less than 40 people, costing the state an estimated $85 billion. Now, here's the crazy part. As California burns, so too do Spain and Portugal. 100 wildfires have swept through northern Spain and Portugal. 440 wildfires have been reported in Portugal. All of this is being fueled from winds from Hurricane Ophelia. Now, just want to say from all of us here at Big Picture Ranch, our hearts and our prayers are with everyone in California and those overseas whose lives have been so dramatically affected by these terrible, terrible tragedies. Meanwhile, the likes of Al Gore and Governor Jerry Brown have pointed the finger at climate change as the main cause of these terrible fires. Now, as I point out in my blog this week, what you don't know is that it is not the heat, as they say, as these leaders have said, that is causing these terrible fires, added heat due to climate change, but rather a series of events that begin with the soil. Now, when we desertify soil, we strip the land of water. That water ends up in the atmosphere. Atmospheric water, or hydration, is perhaps the largest greenhouse gas. So we've removed the water from the land becomes brittle, the land becomes dry, and of course, it doesn't take much to ignite such horrific wildfires. More info of this in my blog at joshtickell.com. More info on the latest situation in California and how we can reverse it with regenerative agriculture. Also in my new book, Kiss the Ground. Now, let's heal California and the rest of the world. Let's use regenerative agriculture. It's needed now more than ever to bring back the small water cycle that keeps this land fertile and lush. 2 big food-related issues also this week. 2 companies coming under fire. McDonald's is attempting to attract a millennial audience. Again, remember, they've done this a number of times by rolling out, get this, a kale and sriracha flavored burger. But as usual, the fast food giant just can't seem to get things right with the youth generation. Millennials took to Twitter to criticize the burger maker, saying things like, "Didn't realize you could put student loan forgiveness in a burger." Millennials, it seems, just continue to avoid the golden arches. Of course, if you've seen the recent movie, The Founder, that didn't help either. Well, finally, our last piece of news has to do with everyone's favorite genetic engineering food company. I'm talking about Monsanto. Last week on the show, John Rulak from Nutiva gave us shocking behind-the-scenes information about what's going on with Monsanto. You should watch that episode or listen to the podcast, John Rulak, episode 1. This week, the media has let loose a firestorm, a holy storm against the corporate giant. First, there's a new book out called Whitewash: The Story of a Weed Killer, Cancer, and the Corruption of Science by Carrie Gillum. It puts a bullseye on Monsanto, and she really launches an arrow at the company. And she just really talks about how this company has been very deceitful with its studies and its methodology. And of course, the book comes out, and then next, everyone from Mother Jones Magazine to Reuters is saying that key research from Monsanto has been omitted, scientists have been paid off and silenced, and the public has been lied to. All of this around Monsanto's popular weed killer called Roundup, from which the company makes $4 billion a year. Now, who knew a company could be deceitful? I would have never imagined. Now, one of the most damning statements that came out, and this is in Mother Jones Magazine, from a former EPA toxicologist, Marion Copley. Copley worked for 30 years studying the effects of chemicals on mice. She wrote, and I quote, "It is essentially certain that glyphosate causes cancer," end quote. Now, glyphosate's the primary ingredient in Roundup. The sad part is 1 year after she wrote these words, in a dark and possibly not coincidental twist of fate, Marion Copley died of cancer. So our field report today tackles this issue as it's hitting very close to home here in Ojai, California. So let's play Rebecca's field report and see what's going on here in our fair town of 8,000 people just near the Los Padres National Forest. Beautiful environmental town. Let's have a look at what's happening here.
Hi, Rebecca Tickell reporting from the field. The grass, actually, here at the Big Picture Ranch. Did you know that many grasses are genetically modified to be Roundup resistant? Well, not this grass. We planted a large variety of native California grasses that do well with less water. We're trying to build our soil health, but 75% of rainwater in the air has glyphosate in it. Glyphosate's the main ingredient in Roundup. 10 million tons have been sprayed onto fields across America. It's safe to say America is awash in glyphosate with little understanding of what the long-term health impacts may be. California has determined that glyphosate is a toxic carcinogen, and the World Health Organization has listed it as a probable carcinogen capable of causing cancer. A few weeks ago, I dropped my daughter off at school, and there were men there spraying right next to the playground and right next to the river where my daughter swims. There were no signs posted to warn the teachers or parents. We, the concerned parents, called the company responsible for the spraying and had a few questions for them. This is what happened.
What is the concentration level of the glyphosate in the solution they're using?
The guys with backpacks, I believe, have a 5% with an ammonium sulfate additive, which is just a treatment with the water conditioner.
Okay. And this doesn't contaminate the water table?
They are not, no, because they are not in the water.
They're in the stream.
Well, they're in the stream. They were spraying literally, like I would say, about 2 feet from the water.
They're, just for the record, they're now going back out there to spray, even though I've officially requested that you guys stop spraying until we get this resolved.
We will keep you all safe. I promise that. But I also have to carry on.
You're saying it's okay for my daughter to swim and play in the dirt?
It is not going to do anything to you.
Well, common sense still says, you know, don't spray toxins next to a playground where children are. My question is, when will we learn that these safe chemicals may not be as safe as the companies would like us to believe? As we've seen over and over, I bet in 20 years there will be no debate over whether these chemicals cause illness. But by then, it may be too late.
Joining me in studio today is the lovely, amazing, and articulate Rebecca Harrell Tickell. Rebecca, thanks for that field report.
You're welcome.
So let me ask you a couple of questions. First of all, why were they spraying this toxic chemical that is, according to the California government, this chemical is a carcinogen. And if you read the definition of carcinogen, It is a substance capable of causing cancer. Why are they spraying this near children?
Well, it's deeply ironic, actually. They're trying to save the soil. So there's a invasive species here in Ojai called arundo, and it's a grass that is very shallow and absorbs a lot of water, and it disrupts the watershed. So to try to get rid of the arundo and to try to save the soil and save the land, they're spraying it with Roundup.
And were there signs? I mean, there are obviously kids playing in this small area. 20, how many children? 10, 20 children? Something
13 kids.
13 kids. So here these people are spraying, 13 children. The government of California has said that this is a carcinogen. The WHO calls it a probable carcinogen. Were there signs for parents and teachers indicating the this is airborne spraying, right? They're not injecting it into the soil. It's in the air. Were there signs indicating that they were spraying?
There were no signs. So we showed up to drop our kids off at school, which is in this public park owned by the public. And there were men there with these vests and these backpacks spraying it. And they were also topically applying it. So they were painting it on and they were spraying it.
Oh, I love it. I just love it when people paint chemicals. I can't get away. That reminds me of Sherman Williams had a campaign after World War II for a chemical compound that they called Pestroy. And Pestroy was a DDT, basically, and they had a campaign to have housewives paint the inside of their houses with Pestroy on the walls because you need DDT in your house. And apparently we need to paint California with glyphosate. So no signs.
No signs, which was illegal. They were supposed to have signs.
Okay, so they're perhaps breaking at least one law there. Now, the people applying the chemical, did they have protective gear? Did they have gloves, eye protection, respirators? One would think you would be protecting your lungs from this substance. Obviously, any inhalation could be dangerous.
I could smell it. You could smell it in the air. And these men actually who were spraying it, they had no respirators. They had no protective gear. They were just out there. Actually, one of the guys, his hands was just completely blue from the dye, from the glyphosate, from the Roundup. And so
it was dyed.
Yes.
Okay, so you could see the painting of it on the trees or the area.
Yep.
Okay, well at least there was some thoughtful dyeing of people and trees.
Well, speaking of dyeing, I mean the workers spraying the Roundup were concerned. When I went in and I talked to them, they were worried. They were worried about what the long-term impacts were going to be on their health from spraying it.
And was it all men? How many people were spraying?
I saw about 4 people, and then as I was leaving, I saw a woman by the side of the road also spraying.
So they had a woman out there spraying and several men. And the company responsible for this, what was there? Because I know you talked to a woman there on the phone. You didn't identify them in the report, which is thoughtful, not targeting anyone, because we know that this spraying goes on in California, all over the place. Why target one company? It's many companies doing this. What was their response?
Their response, as you heard in the video, was it's perfectly safe for your daughter to go out and play in that water right now. She said she could sit in it and it would be safe, which is ludicrous. Obviously, it's been named a carcinogen. So for them to tell me on the phone, I mean, I think worse than not putting the sign was then them telling me that it was safe for my child and all the other children to go and play in the area where it had just been sprayed. I mean, that's just completely irresponsible. It's irresponsible.
It doesn't seem like good corporate behavior.
And by the way, part of the reason why I didn't name the entities that sprayed was because they have assured me that they will not spray again. So I'm going to hold them to that. And if they do spray again, you better believe that people will know who it is.
So let's see what happens in Ojai, California. And look in your town, what's happening with spraying? Do you see men and women with backpack sprayers in your park, your golf course, on your lawn? Might be time to ask some questions. It might be time to assure that your kids are not getting doused with what the WHO calls a probable carcinogen. Obviously, it's making a lot of money for some people, but we could be paying the price in the long run.
I mean, isn't it crazy that we have to call it a probable carcinogen, that we have to dance around the technicality of the wording because nobody wants to get sued? Everybody's afraid of the companies that are manufacturing these chemicals because they don't want to be attacked like other people have been in the past, which is unfortunate because in 20 years, when we all know and are all certain and we've all seen people dying from being exposed to these chemicals that are everywhere, you know, we're gonna look back at this time and think how crazy it is that we can't just say glyphosate causes cancer.
Right. Now we're going to roll a little B-roll of your experience in the Gulf of Mexico during the BP oil spill. You can see there some scenes from the movie The Big Fix, which was premiered at Cannes.
BP station is just right across this cut.
Despite BP's claims they had stopped spraying, our cameras caught them still transporting and spraying dispersants.
He's fucking spraying. I'm catching him right now. He's fucking spraying right now. BP says Corexit is the most effective option to clean up the huge spill.
Is it dangerous to sea life and humans? The company insists it's safe.
The toxicity of this particular product is at least 25 times less toxic than common dishwashing soap that everybody uses in their house on a day-to-day basis.
And studies have actually shown that the toxicity levels in ice cream, shampoo, and even a chocolate candy bar are higher.
Now, what was the experience there? BP was spraying a chemical using contractors, very similar situation, to try and correct a problem. What were they telling you about that chemical?
So we were in Louisiana during the BP Gulf oil spill, and to get rid of the oil, they sprayed it. They chose to spray it with this chemical dispersant called Corexit. And they told everybody, it was on the news, it was in the publications, that this Corexit, it was not toxic, it was less toxic than table salt, it was less toxic than dish soap, it was less toxic than even chocolate. So the beaches were open. Children were playing in the water right after the oil spill, and you could smell it, and you could see the foam, and you could see the oil, and that's what the movie The Big Fix that we made is all about. But we were out there looking to see what the real deal was because we didn't trust that it was safe to swim in the water. But we were out there on the beach, and we could see little specks of water, and we could see the foam. All of these were public beaches. We only went into water that was where it was heavily fished. It was open for fishing. Children were swimming in the water. Everyone was told by the Coast Guard it's safe.
And so they said it's safe, and now it's been a number of years. 2010 BP oil spill is 2017, 7 years. Yep. What is the most recent reporting that's being done? Are they still saying the effects were safe, or do we see some other reports coming out now?
Reports, all of the reports are coming out that are saying that it was toxic. Workers got sick. People who were down there got sick. People who swam in the water got sick. I even got sick. So after we left those beaches, I started to have crazy symptoms. I had a rash on my skin. I had a rash on my feet. I had just gross symptoms as a result of that. And I was even warned by a toxicologist that if I got pregnant, that I might have a miscarriage or birth defects. And sure enough, when we got pregnant, we had a birth defect, and then later we had a miscarriage. And I'm still dealing with the skin issues.
So the corporate actors change, but the playbook remains the same. This is why we have to be vigilant and protect our health and our soils. Thanks for coming in.
You're welcome.
Thanks for that amazing field report. Can we expect to see another field report next time?
Next week, you'll have a field report from Vermont.
Can't wait. Thanks so much. All right, we're going to switch gears. I want to talk, these chemicals have been linked to other things, including linking this to America's obesity epidemic. We're just going to show you a little website shot now of my blog. The latest blog is on the connection between obesity and these chemicals. All right, my next guest is Reno Rollet. Reno Rollet,
yes,
the co-founder of Boku Superfoods. which
That's
is,
right.
you're based here in Ojai, California,
We
in
are.
our town.
That's right. Right at the bottom of the hill.
It's fantastic. Now, you've taken an old building that used to be a car dealership in our town, and you have transformed it into a superfoods paradise, which is very exciting for those of us who want to see something wonderful happen. Now, let's talk a little bit about superfoods.
Sure.
Because I think some people are totally into superfoods, but some people probably hear superfood and they think mumbo jumbo, right?
A cucumber with a cape.
Yeah, exactly. So what is a superfood?
Well, we like to keep it really simple, Josh. So a superfood is really also known as a functional food, a plant-based food with extraordinary nutritional potency. So these are foods we've heard of, like broccoli and spinach and kale and berries and things of that nature.
Yeah.
Boku specializes in the most pristine, nutrient-dense superfoods that we source from all over the world. So we travel the world to the most pristine locations. These fruits, vegetables, berries, things of that nature are vine-ripened, which is critical. They are then harvested fresh, dried at low temperature, and powdered. So we specialize in these broad-spectrum blends of greens, sprouts, berries, fruits. We even have a proprietary blend of functional mushrooms, ancient mushrooms that have been revered for their sort of health-forming qualities, many of them for thousands of years.
Now, I have personally experienced, not your functional mushrooms, but I have experienced some extremely functional mushrooms in my life. So I assume,
these are non-psychoactive, by the way, completely
that's
different
what
mushrooms.
I assumed.
Yeah.
That. Okay, good. All right, just for clarity, for the audience's sake. But you may feel a physical sensation. You may feel healthy
Absolutely.
and vital.
In fact, one of our slogans is that Boku superfood is organic nutrition you can actually feel. That's the beauty of these functional ingredients, and the reason, frankly, they have been celebrated and revered in these ancient cultures for so long, because of the way they make you feel. Different from, say, supplements, pills, capsules, tablets. We've all seen the people popping these things, and I often ask, well, how do you feel? And sometimes people look at me, like it's a crazy question. But the fact is, you chances are will not feel any different when you take these man-made supplements. Of course, many of them come from chemical plants and manufacturing plants. Boku Superfood, again, is a blend of beautiful, natural, whole food plants. So when they enter your system, the body recognizes these nutrients, this fuel, assimilates it with remarkable efficiency, and you feel the difference.
Now, how does this compare? And I want you to really be honest with us. How does this compare with the traditional American diet?
Oh.
Because we know that we have a lot of chemicals in our diet. Those chemicals, anything that's about what we're learning as we go through the investigation, my new book, Kiss the Ground, and our guests on the show, if it's bad for your body, it's bad for the soil.
Exactly. And bad for the planet, and pretty much bad for everything. And, really, there's no comparison. I mean, with normal food or ordinary food, you fill up. With superfoods, you're fueling your body. So it's a completely different experience, right? So think of it this way. Again, food, it's very fundamental. Food is fuel. Your body is a beautiful, complex machine. And like any machine, it requires fuel. When you consume these nutrient-depleted, dead, toxic sludge foods, right, you fill up, but you're not satisfying hunger, because hunger at its core is the body signaling to you its need for fuel. So the difference is fill up on fattening sludge, pause, ask yourself how you feel. Within a few minutes, you're going to have cravings. You're going to want something salty or sweet because the body's searching for the fuel that it needs. And I mean, we need fuel for everything, for immunity, to love, to work, to play. And it doesn't find the fuel in these processed foods, so the hunger alarm sounds again. If you really think of it this way, this simply, it is the foundation for unnecessary weight gain, difficult weight management, disease, sickness, and the rest of it. Because as you point out, our foods are just loaded with toxic chemicals. Let's face it, they're grown in mineral-depleted soils. It's really sad, actually, when you consider the adulteration of our food supply and what's really happening out there to the foods that we're consuming and feeding our children every day.
And for you, knowing the standard American diet, standard American diet, 63% of, it's always shocking, even having read it a million times, 63% of our standard American diet is calories from a box, a bag, or a carton from the middle of the supermarket derived from commodity crops. Obviously not sustainable. It can't grow corn and soybeans forever. It's degrading our soils. It's doing a lot of bad things. But How do you ascertain that you're sourcing things that are sustainable, that are going to be good long term? How do you figure that out as a company?
Yeah, that's a great question because, let's face it, you really can't trust a lot of these certifications and even these agencies that are out there allegedly, working on our behalf. So we travel. We actually travel the world. We meet the farmers. We shake their hands. We spend time with them. And we've been to the top of the mountains in Peru and in the cranberry bogs in Quebec. We love that experience to actually meet and shake hands with these farmers. And often when you make that connection, there's no mistaking it. I mean, these people are in it for all the right reasons, much the way we are. I mean, they're in the business of farming because they're passionate. They love what they do. We're in the superfood business because we're passionate. We love sharing. I mean, our journey, I should just say this, began 22 years ago with our son. Our son, Reno Jr., was actually experiencing difficulty in school, behavioral problems, and he was diagnosed with attention deficit disorder. I'm sure many parents can relate to this, right?
Common problem in the United States these days.
Big problem. Well, what was crazy is we were called in to meet with the principal of his school, and at the time, there was a doctor right there hunched over with a pen in his hand and a prescription pad, just ready to write a prescription for a pharmaceutical drug. And we were just like, hold on a minute. This is not what we came here for. My wife, Lynn, who comes from a family of farmers, decided, hey, let's get out of here and we're going to pursue alternative advice. So we did. We sought the advice and consulted with a naturopath, a naturopathic medical doctor, who said, you should consider nutrition. We're seeing great things happening.
That is a great statement for all of us, for all Americans.
Yeah.
You should consider nutrition. And that led you on your journey.
It transformed us. I mean, Reno's behavior at home, in school, his grades at home, everything improved. We improved, and that really ignited the passion in us and led us on this journey, which now here we are. We launched the company in 2007. We're now in our 10th year. We're feeding tens of thousands of people in 65 countries, all through our website and some of our, television appearances. But this is the authenticity that I think perhaps separates us, certainly from conventional or processed food companies. We are passionate about helping people and sharing with people these beautiful natural secrets that really can transform people.
So let me just go through the list. Do you use genetic modified organisms?
Absolutely not.
No GMOs. Is your product, organic? Do you source organic products?
Absolutely. So everything that Boku does is USDA certified organic, certified kosher, certified vegan. Every single product is doctor formulated. We have an on-staff naturopathic medical doctor. So sometimes it's easier to talk about what's not in Boku. So no whey, no soy, no dairy, no gluten. Of course, no genetically modified organisms, right?
Well,
no fillers, flavorings, none of that stuff.
Okay.
We really specialize in beautiful, pristine, functional ingredients, and everything is in there in what we call beneficial or functional dosages. So it's not just about splash value for the label. Everything in Boku Superfood, all of our superfoods, our proteins, which are incredible. We have our Super Fuel, which is an award-winning product that we developed specifically for elite endurance athletes. Now it's our top-selling product because it occurs to us, life is a sport. And we're all in it to win it, right? So we've got busy moms, executives, students, normal everyday folks like you and I whose lives are being changed based on experiencing these incredible superfoods.
That's great. So, Reno, I'd like to have you back on, last question, because the regenerative diet really points to a new minimum of 50% of your intake from fruits and vegetables. So if you were going to say, look, the choice between healthy, organic, locally sourced food and Boku superfoods, what do you tell people?
Well, I think those are two great choices. I think as a rule for me, I try to eat as close to nature as possible. And, if we just pause and listen to ourselves, the intelligence there is incredible. So use that as a guide. Listen to yourself. We know instinctively what's good for us and what's not. Often we're just so sort of rushed and caught up in this pattern, right? This process that we don't take the time to pause and ask ourselves, how do we feel? What's good for us? So between those two choices, it's really hard to pick. I think Boku's great because it's simple. You shake it, you take it, you can trust Boku that you're getting the highest quality ingredients on earth. But again, for me, the best rule is to stay as close to nature as possible. Avoid processed foods, which is really hard to do. I mean, you mentioned it earlier. They estimate up to 10,000 toxic chemicals. You walk into a grocery store, they say 80% of the food items you see on the shelf didn't even exist 100 years ago. Stay close to nature. We've only just begun to scratch the surface, and the magic is incredible.
Reno Relais, thank you for being on the show. Look forward to having you back real soon.
Thanks, Josh.
Thanks very much.
All the best. Thank you.
Okay, great. Perfect. Our next guest is an actor. You know him from television, from the hit show Arrow, where he has been a constant and very pivotal part of the show since its beginning. What you don't know is Paul Blackthorne has another life. He is an environmental hero fighting species extinction. We're going to play a clip of his film, which is called Save the Rhino, Vietnam. And after that, Paul's coming on the show.
Literally from the first shop we went to, ivory and tiger tooth were being flaunted in the shop window. I must stress that the sale of these items is illegal, so to see them being sold so openly was shocking.
Ivory chopsticks, ivory bangles, ivory necklace. That'll be the turtle shell stuff, right? Marine turtles, yeah.
We hadn't yet seen any rhino horn, but in every shop we went to, we were offered to order some from their supplier.
For a whole horn like this? How much is that? Like the whole thing? So that's $40,000?
More than $40,000 for the whole
So
one.
$40,000 for that.
It's crazy to think that rhino horn is worth more in its weight than gold. Rhino horn typically being twice as expensive per kilogram.
You are starting to look like Keith Richards, mate.
If the laws are being enforced, this nonsense carries on willy-nilly. And we now have on film rock solid evidence of, several traders trading.
We ought to go to the Vietnamese government and say, look, we have this evidence and we don't want to embarrass them.
Yeah, we don't want to embarrass you by putting this stuff out and making you look foolish. Don't you think you should go and do something about it?
It was frightful seeing the ivory and rhino horn being sold so openly. I couldn't help but think this whole market reminded me of drug dealing. The anonymity about buying and selling. The fact that you had to get it through a supplier. It was at this point I was told that wildlife trafficking is the 4th largest criminal trade in the world, behind human trafficking, drugs, and weapons.
Here in the studio with me, you just saw the clip of a totally different way of Paul Blackthorne being on camera. And here is the man, Paul Blackthorne. Paul, thanks for coming on the show. So excited to see you. So excited to have you on.
Thank you, Josh. You're a marvel of the modern times. Thank you very much. It's lovely to be here.
Now many people know you from your persona, your TV persona, as a father.
Character,
right?
This is a persona.
That's a character. That's a character.
Yeah.
Yeah. So many people know your character
from
the show Arrow, right? But this is what we just saw is the real Paul.
Yeah, that's a side of me that sort of gets a bit riled up, from what we're up to these days on dear old planet home. And I mean, to bring it to basics, I got involved in the cause, the elephant poaching cause, when I discovered what was going on with that in recent years. I watched that Catherine Bigelow film, The Last Days, which is just mind-blowing, and 4 or 5 years ago. And then I did a poach eggs, not elephants t-shirt.
A poach eggs, not elephants. This seems like a good, that's a good breakfast slogan, right?
Well, it was more aimed at the. Actually, I did have a few vegans that were a bit upset with that.
Really?
Yeah, believe it or not.
God, it seems like you're making, that's a big stride forward.
Well, I don't think eggs are as threatened as a species, shall we say?
No.
I mean, chicken eggs as perhaps elephants. Anyway, so
and it brings up the whole other question, which is which came first. Poaching the egg or poaching... Never mind.
Yeah, let's go there.
Horrible.
That's part 2.
Yeah.
Next week.
Yes.
So I got involved in that, and I was supporting an organisation called Air Shepherd, who fly drones on the in Africa, where the countries that it's taken place, Botswana and South Africa, Mozambique, and where the poaching is prevalent.
Now, let me just get this straight and come forward just a little closer to the microphone for me.
You just want me to close it to you? Is that what it is? Just
I need some affinity here.
Love. I told you your beard looks good.
Yeah,
now you're kind of getting all cuddly on me.
Yeah, little cuddle. It's traditional. Every guest on the show, we cuddle.
By the end, we'll be getting closer and closer.
Exactly.
Closer. Okay.
So let me get this straight. They fly drones, and what are they searching for with the drones?
They are using predictive computer analysis. They're looking for the poachers, of course,
from the air.
Yeah.
And let me take you through a scenario where you're flying the drone and you see the poachers. Now, obviously, drones have to be relatively close to the ground to get a really good look. They're loud.
Yeah.
The poachers probably see the drone.
Yeah.
Now what?
Well, then they're sending in the rangers. And what they're doing, they've with the predictive computer analysis that they've done, they can work out roughly where they're all going to be. And then they'll send the drones in to confirm it. And then, of course, the rangers are very close behind because they've already done the homework on where they think where they're predicting they're going to be. Drones confirms it. Rangers right behind. Off they go.
Got it. And so the drones
hugely effective.
Effective.
Very, very effective.
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Basically, where the drones fly, the poachers are like, oh yeah, it's bloody drones. Let's not do that bit.
Right.
Let's change our thing. So
let's not shoot the elephant.
Yes,
would probably be the first thought.
Yeah, exactly. So I worked with those guys first of all.
Wow.
And that's the one thing. Being on these television shows, I'm very appreciative, very grateful for all that entails. But really, it helps you shine a light, on some of these causes. And I don't know what it is, whether it was the Jungle Book or whatever it was, but for me, National Geographic as a kid, I've just always been into wildlife and preservation. I think it's just like the innocence of it, really, isn't it?
Right.
It's just that, these beautiful creatures, moving on to rhinos, that have been wandering the earth for 50 million years. They're effectively one of the dinosaurs. And if we carry on killing them in the way we are, just like the elephants, they're gone in 10 years.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, that's mind-blowing.
Right, it's shocking.
50 million years, 10 years on our watch.
Yeah.
We're the generation responsible.
That's shocking. And what I can't get my head around, look, there's economic drivers on the ground, right? A lot of this boils down to, as you know, and we should talk about this, education, poverty, the nexus of, disenfranchised cultures and people who are trying to scratch by, and then the chain goes all the way up to the top to people who are really getting rich off of this stuff too.
Yeah, it's a mixed bag, isn't it? I mean, you've got incentivizing the local communities to maintain their heritage, if you will.
But what I can't get my head around is how do we as a species how do I justify to my 3-year-old girl when she is 14 or 15, and she turns to me and she says, Daddy, how come you guys let all the rhinos go? There's no more rhinos. Like, I can't even see one.
Yeah.
Right? How am I going to deal with that as a conscientious parent? What am I going to say to her?
Yeah.
We did, sorry.
My bad.
Whoops. We just,
yeah.
And the second part of this, and we'll go into all this detail, but one of the things that I found in the Kiss the Ground book, I interviewed a man named Alan Savory.
Right.
And he was a rangeland ecologist way, way, way back when they killed the elephants thinking it would save the savannah. The savannah got way worse. This is in Rhodesia, which became Zimbabwe. And Savory realized that these keystone species, elephants, rhinos, they are actually critical to maintaining soil. And soil is critical to maintaining water and climate.
Yeah.
So in a way, when we go crazy and we decide to extinguish a species, we're taking out one big brick.
Yeah, and then the knock-on effect of that.
Right. We think it's just some ivory or some, whatever, aphrodisiac stuff for crazy people. But really, that's our sustainability.
Okay, well, this is what ultimately, with any cause of any kind, this is what I mean, human beings. It's like we're so intelligent we can create this, and this, but we're not quite intelligent enough to realize the long-term consequences of certain this, and this is.
Right.
It's like our fatal flaw is instant gratification.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. We are wired for just
instant.
Now.
I want it now. I want it now. I want it now. I want it now.
Yeah.
It's the craziest. It's the vital flaw in our fundamental makeup.
Yeah.
Instant gratification.
Yes.
There was that book actually, the marshmallow test, wasn't there, about the professor, the scientist. He did a study of kids back in the 60s, and he was like, I can give you one marshmallow now, or you can wait 20 minutes and have two. And it was shocking. Like, yeah, I want it now.
Yeah, give me the marshmallow.
I'll take the marshmallow.
Yep, the marshmallow and the endorphins and the whole thing, right?
But then the crazy thing, they unearthed this test recently, and they went, let's see how all those kids are doing now. The ones that took the one and the ones that waited 20 minutes. And the correlation was extraordinary. Basically, everything went wrong for these guys. Everything went great for those guys.
So the kids who wanted the instant gratification,
yeah,
their lives didn't turn out so well.
Their lives were all like divorced, this, didn't quite make it. It was not 100%, but very much the trend.
The curve, right? They were all inside this bell curve. The ones who managed to wait had
all good lives, good jobs, good family, all this.
Right.
I mean, if that's not a metaphor for the bigger picture of everything that's going on here, see how I slipped bigger picture in there?
I like that. I like that big picture. We're talking about the big picture.
Yeah, it is the big picture.
So the big
Wait
picture.
20 minutes for your marshmallows.
Yeah, yeah.
Goodness sakes.
Yeah.
And obviously going back to, the Rhino thing and all these issues is that, it's instant gratification. All of it.
So
Quick buck.
So here you are, successful actor, great TV series, great gig, and you don't necessarily quit that, but you take the little time you have off on this particular journey, and you end up in Vietnam. Why Vietnam? I mean, I understand the drone and supporting the drone work, and that group again, are they still doing that with the drones?
Yeah, Air Shepherd's still doing
Air
their
Shepherd.
stuff.
I love that.
Yeah.
Air Shepherd. It's like Sea Shepherd for the air.
Exactly.
Brilliant.
They're still off doing that. And when we had the hiatus last spring, Air Shepherd asked, do you want to come down to some of the places where we're flying, get in the field.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, that'd be interesting. And then at that moment, I discovered a fact. It was the Wilderness Project of South Africa. I can't remember what it was. That 90% of the rhino horn that's poached in Africa ends up in Vietnam.
That's staggering.
Yeah.
90%. Now,
90%.
And I just for clarity for our listeners and our viewers, if you poach a rhino horn, what happens to the rhino?
Not very good things.
Okay.
Just that in it. So I don't know what the exact percentage is actually, but most of which die. They do rescue a few, and you see, the bandaged faces and all the rest of it.
Yes.
But most are basically taken down, debilitated in some way, and then just chainsawed off with the horn. And there's that dreadful video. It's actually, we play a clip of it in the film very briefly.
Yeah.
Of the dying rhino, we literally just face cut off.
Yeah.
Just, snorting away and dying.
As horrifying as that imagery is, and you have a warning in front of the film.
Yeah, there's a graphic.
So folks with kids who are watching, you should watch the film and you decide if it's appropriate for your children. I think it's important for all ages to see this stuff, to the degree that you find it acceptable. Show your kids, because
that's like a 2-second clip.
It's a 2-second clip, but we do need to educate people, and we need to be honest about what's happening here.
Well, this is why we went to Vietnam. So, if that's primarily the market for it, I just called somebody up and was like, "Is Arrow on in Vietnam?" And they were like, "Yeah, it's a huge hit." I was like, "Great!" So this is where I'm using some Arrow capital.
Yes.
Right. And,
yes.
And I get in touch with Save the Rhino International. I get in touch with Education for Nature Vietnam. We landed. Got on the ground, and it was boom, straight in. Corporate leaders, business leaders, government. We met with the government themselves, sitting there with the communist government in Vietnam, going, "Guys, we've got this footage we just shot yesterday of illegal ivory and rhino horn. What are you going to do about it?"
Well, let's pause there. So you met with the communist government, of the country of Vietnam.
I know, it was a bit weird, actually. I have to say, it was a bit of a.
Right, where they're obviously they're taking this rhino horn and they're selling it there, and
Well, not the government, but
right?
I mean,
no,
yeah,
but
yeah.
look, nothing happens in any country, I assert, without some level of government either oversight or undersight, right?
Yeah.
So what did they say when you presented this footage? I mean, you filmed the footage just basically down the street at a store,
yeah, just
right?
a couple of hours away,
Yeah.
just outside the city, is a well-known town where that market exists,
Mm.
that black market. They assured us that changes would be made and that laws would be implemented soon, and they said they had one coming in July, and I don't believe they did it in the end. I don't think that happened in the end. I have to verify that.
Mm.
But they're receiving pressure because people are realizing this, but for some reason that level isn't responding.
Mm.
But here's the approach that I've felt. I think we talked about this as well before I went. Yes, of course, whatever governments implement is a huge thing. But to me, stigma, taboo, right, is a big one too. Now, and I use this in the presentation that I gave at the schools and universities and stuff that we went to. If you walked, I'm a product of 1970s England, and I could just remember these dreadful sort of parties my mother would take me to where it was all smoke and fur coats and all the rest of it. But if you were smoking a cigarette with a fur coat, you were fabulous. You were Joan Collins and you were wonderful, and a martini and all the rest of it. Of course, if you do that now, because awareness has been raised about the effects, not just on yourself,
acceptable. Not acceptable.
You would look like the biggest muppet on planet
You have
Earth.
to have a Tesla. You have to have a solar-powered watch,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what's happened in Vietnam is that they've had a huge economic growth in the last 15 years. And it correlates entirely with the rhino horn poaching.
I see.
As
Okay.
the increase.
Yes.
And what's happened is that in Vietnam, rhino horn, yes, there's the suggestions that keratin, that it essentially is the protein that your fingernails is made of, is what rhino horn is made of. But there's suggestion that, it can cure you for this and it can cure you for that. But
And it's considered a sexual aphrodisiac, isn't it?
It has been marketed in some ways in that with that, yes.
Now
Absolutely.
the irony of killing an animal and this keystone species, which is actually critical for the functioning of the savanna, the system, the ecosystem, and finding that to be a sexual aphrodisiac. Maybe there's something in that rhino horn they think is great, but it's the same material in your fingernails. Why don't they just eat their fingernails?
This has been suggested.
Yeah.
But you see, it's almost as if because what's happened now is the market for it, the desire for it's almost transcended what it's actually supposed to be good for. The reason why people are turning up to dinner parties now, a nouveau riche businessman with the Lamborghini outside, the reason they're turning up with a bag of rhino horn powder now is not really because anyone really believes it's going to do this. It just says that, I've got $100,000 that I can spend on this.
So it's total status.
A status symbol.
Oh my goodness.
That's what it's turned into.
Wow.
A status symbol.
Wow.
So when I went out there to Vietnam, I'm talking to a lot of the younger generation. Because you've got the government situation.
You've got these old guys running the government. But
you've got to get in there in the place.
You've got the millennials. That's really
exactly.
and that's who watches Arrow, right? It's a very
exactly. So
millennial audience.
I can tap into this. Yeah. So I basically would say to them, look, this is what's going on. And I don't think now that you're aware of it, you would really think it was so great if your father or grandfather or somebody walked in the room offering some of this stuff out.
Right. Hint, hint.
Yes, just a thought to go home with. And a lot of them, when I told them, that these things have been gone in 10 years, there was 1 million 100 years ago, there's 30,000 now, we're on the brink, one every 8 hours. They were just mind blown, and they just felt so awful that it was happening in their country. And I was very nervous about aware of some English guy coming into Vietnam saying, "You people are doing lots of naughty things. Stop it."
The wonderful the Great White Hope.
Yeah, exactly, and all that nonsense.
Yeah.
So what I went
tough.
What I went in there with that in mind was, look, guys, there's a saying I read recently: the world suffers a lot, not because of the violence of bad people, but because of the silence of good people. And at which point I said, and I know there are lots of good people in Vietnam.
Right.
It's time to speak up and create this stigma and create this taboo. What do you think? And they're like, yeah! And I was like, great, that's what we want.
Got it.
So then it was
Okay.
about, you're all great.
Yeah.
And with great people we can do, is what we need to do this.
Right.
So
And at the end of the day, this is a teamwork issue. It really doesn't matter
yeah.
that you happen to be white or whatever other color. You could have been purple.
Yeah.
The point is, you're bringing awareness to an issue. You're lifting that issue. And so... And you went with your
my godson.
Your godson.
Yeah, who's fantastic.
Jake, is that his name?
Yeah, Jake Dubman, yeah.
And he's a filmmaker.
Well, he's a filmmaker. He's
Yes.
also going to, you're going to be seeing him on the screen soon as well.
Yeah.
He's on the verge
Very,
of something
very
pretty big.
charismatic, like his, Godfather. Godfather. I mean, this gets into trilogy territory, right?
Absolutely.
You could spawn a trilogy of
well,
these.
we'll do part 2 next year. Maybe we go to Africa. We'll
Maybe
do that one
you
together.
should. So you go in with Jake. You do these undercover, and look, this film is incredible. You put it on YouTube now, right? So everyone
it's out
can
there
watch it.
now.
It's free.
Yeah.
It's really an amazing eye opener. And then you go and you talk to these incredible millennial audiences. I mean, they love you. You know, you are a big star to them. How did you feel that in the final analysis, how did you feel that the message was received? Is the work done? I mean, you said that there were 1 million of these creatures, and now we're down to tens of thousands.
30,000, yeah.
That's scary. And so how is it received? Is the work done? And what are the next steps?
Well, it was received positively, and it was incredible because of the infrastructure, the media infrastructure that we were sort of tapping into that Save the Rhino International and Education for Nature Vietnam already had in place. We really did tap in when I did interviews with basically every television channel in Vietnam, and so they were showing us the clips, and it was like Hollywood actor Paul Blackthorne has come in and done this thing, and he's talking about rhinos, and I'm just sitting there watching one clip after another. I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is kind of happening. And it was just kind of a passing thought that sort of stirred me and just like, is Arrow on in Vietnam? Yeah, great, let's go. And I think there's that thing, when something's coming from the right place, when something's coming from sort of truth and goodness, things do fall into place. There is something, just get that sort of universal energy behind it. And that's what happened with this. And it was... As far as I said, one of the things I also said in the presentation was, look, I'm here for 2 weeks, and I'm doing the best I can to sort of really, hone in on this kind of, potentially tragic scenario. But it's up to you guys to keep this thing going after we've all gone. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So received very well. One can only hope that in some ways the awareness was raised. I believe it was, because to be on national television like that, has got to help in some way, and getting into the minds of the kids.
Yeah.
And what was do you remember the third point of the question?
Next steps.
The next steps is, what are the next steps? You just got to keep on keeping on, haven't you? It's
right.
It's just. When you're stirred in such ways, I had to take a break from that for after that, and doing the film and everything. I was just like, okay, I'm just going to step off for a second. I feel like I've done some good there.
Yeah.
And doing these media, when you start doing all the social media stuff, and I got so much support. And Aaron Ramsey was one of my big soccer player heroes from Arsenal in England. He launched the campaign with me.
Great.
Amir Khan, the Bollywood superstar.
Okay,
friend
good.
of mine. He was supporting the cause. Chris Hemsworth, Matt Smith, Alex Kingston.
So it turned into a team effort.
Oh my gosh, yeah. We had this amazing montage of all these amazing people wearing the T-shirt. Wow. And these people reach millions and millions and millions of people through social media.
Right.
So, that is the power that we have with social media, isn't it? That we, it can just be a dreadful, very negative, boring echo chamber, or it can be a very,
Not this show.
No,
not this show. No, not us.
Or it can be something very positive.
Yeah, of course.
Hopefully this show.
Yeah.
And that's what we must use. And I think those next steps are to keep that sort of energy going on that front. And, just keep on keeping on.
Good. So we need people to like and share the video. We're gonna put the video URL on the screen for you guys.
Yeah.
And we'll put it in the liner notes of the podcast. So we want people to like and share the video. We want that we want that pressure to continue.
Yeah.
And the organizations you work with, what are their names so people can get them?
Well, there was Save the Rhino International,
Great.
who are very small organization, just doing amazing things with very limited resources. So it was wonderful to try and raise some money for them to this, because we did T-shirts for that as well.
Yes.
Actually, the T-shirt we did before Save the Rhino Vietnam was Keep Rhinos Horny, which
hey,
yes,
hey, and not just rhinos.
Exactly.
You know,
so
right.
So we all
have I told you about my vasectomy? It's maybe another conversation.
Natural segue.
Yes, natural segue.
No.
Yeah.
And then Education for Nature Vietnam. They do incredible things because there's so many species.
So, Education for Nature Vietnam.
Yeah, ENV.
Okay. ENV. So we're gonna find the Facebook for both of those.
Yeah,
and make that available for everybody.
Instagram and Twitter and
great.
all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Wonderful.
And then what was the last thing I did? 2 weeks ago, I swam from the south side of the Golden Gate Bridge to the north side in the Shark Fest swim.
Wait up. You almost forgot you did that?
Like,
wait up. You swam. Well, first of all, I mean, dude, sharks or no sharks, I don't know if you've looked at the San Francisco Bay, people, but if you look
down... A lot of them have only got one leg.
Right, from the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yeah.
That's rough water.
I know, I discovered that just last week,
cold,
2 weeks ago.
It's cold and it's rough.
Well, you see, I'm a very able swimmer.
Yes.
But I do have deep-rooted phobias, deep waters and sharks. And funnily enough, it wasn't so much Jaws, it was Thunderball that did it for me. Do you remember the shark swimming out the swimming pool in Thunderball?
Wow, that's a real... Wow, we're going to have to...
I couldn't be in a swimming pool by myself for a long time.
We're going to have to do a midnight screening of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
An underwater screening, perhaps.
Ooh.
That'll get him going. So I have this phobia.
A phobia of sharks. And how do you...
Yes.
How did they pull you into this? Who roped you into?
My friend Pasquale, Mr. Pasquale, who I did my documentary with a few years ago, This American Journey, whom we drove across America and interviewed Americans.
Great film, by the way. And can people watch that film? This American Journey?
I think it's out. It was on Hulu.
On Hulu, okay.
I think it might still be
Great
on Hulu.
film. I remember seeing that film. I loved that film. I laughed. I cried. It was at least as good as an off-Broadway rendition of Cats. I'm serious.
That's what everybody kept saying.
It's a great film.
I mean, everybody said the same thing. You know, something that reminds me of Cats.
Yes.
The Aristocats.
Yeah.
We go there. My friend Pasquale called me up and he said, "Hey, mate, just letting you know, I'm doing the Shark Fest swim in San Francisco, September the 30th, and you're doing it as well." Hang on, there hasn't been much discussion about this. I said, well, you know, Mike, because he came to Hawaii one time and we had an encounter with a shark, which scarred me even more, psychologically, not physically. And he knows all my stuff about it. And he's like, well, yeah, I know what you're going to say, mate, but the thing is, it's great because you can do one of your T-shirt things, your wildlife stuff, you know, your campaign things, facing your fears and, you know, think of the ocean and ocean conservancy, blah, blah, blah.
And that's how he enrolled you? What is he, an Aussie or something?
That was my Australian accent, yes.
Yeah, no.
Yes.
Well,
Aussie.
Oi, oi, oi.
That's
you know?
right.
So usually the way Australians enroll people is with a copious amount of alcohol.
Exactly. Here's a beer.
Did he give you
do this.
What they call a slab in Australia, which is a 12 or 24 pack?
Right.
Did he do that before you swam?
No. No, not before he swam. No, there was some suggestion about that, and I said, no, that's pushing it a bit. So I decided to do it. We released a T-shirt. We did a T-shirt campaign for that, No Fin to Fear.
Good.
And,
good alliteration.
Yes, and nothing to fear, no fin to fear, things like that. And then we raised some money and awareness for Ocean Conservancy.
Great.
For that one.
Great.
Because obviously, you know, we know the state of our ocean. We talk about the Earth, the species, the oceans.
Yes. We could do yeah.
I mean, where do you begin?
Well, you begin by swimming from the one side of the Golden Gate Bridge to the other side. Now, what did you wear in this? Because I want to picture you swimming this swim.
Actually, if you can see it all on my Instagram and Facebook and everything. I wore a wetsuit.
Okay.
Yes. It was a little chilly.
Shark proof?
Not shark proof.
Not shark proof wetsuit.
No, but you know what? It was funny because I was worried about the shark thing.
Yeah.
That was the phobia I had.
I mean, that would be ironic to be on a Save the Shark swim.
Well, exactly.
And get eaten by a shark.
I know. You see, well, I thought it was a
It doesn't
win-win.
mean that we shouldn't save the sharks. It just means that Paul got eaten.
It was a win-win. You raise some awareness of the sharks, or you become food for the sharks.
Right. Either
So,
way, you're contributing to our ecosystem.
happy shark, happy
Right.
shark.
Right.
So, yeah, we jumped in the water. But Scarlett said to me, "It's like, okay, mate, you know, when you jump in the water, it's going to be really cold. You're going to get a bit weirded out, and there's 200 people, and you're swimming. You're going to get all like discombobulated. Don't do that. Just take it easy. Take a breath."
Yeah.
And I went, yeah. And just before getting in the water, I thought, yeah, okay, remember, take a breath. Don't get carried away. Just take a first bit slow. And you get in the water, and you just go, ah!
I'm gonna die.
Completely freak out. Can't
Right, of
get
course.
a breath.
Yeah.
You're sitting there thinking, why can't I swim? I've
Right.
been doing it all my life.
Yes.
First 10 minutes was absolutely the worst 10 minutes of. It was a really bad 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But my gosh, after that, when I got myself calmed down and I just looked around, it was an amazing day, and it was the choppy waters and all the rest of it. But when you just sort of got your head around that, and you looked up at the bridge, and you looked around, and you see these swimmers, and you're like, "Where? I'm here. I'm in the San Francisco Bay." And I just sort of took a deep breath and got into the swim, and really, really enjoyed it. It was amazing. It was kind of a beautiful experience actually in the end.
Yeah. Well,
and look,
and here you
I'm
are,
all here.
all limbs,
all four limbs.
And I think what it speaks to, all of these experiences. So you've been, you know, with the you know, Air Shepherd people in that was in Africa. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Air Shepherd in Africa. You've been, you know, on the Save the Rhino campaign in Vietnam.
Yeah.
Most recently, and it's amazing the things that we can do in our own communities, just raising awareness for oceans and for the sea life.
Yeah.
Doing a swim. Look, you know, okay, you were with other people, you know, you weren't taking bullets for nature, but still, there is an element of discomfort, getting out of your comfort zone, doing something you don't otherwise have to do. All of these things speak to just putting yourself on the line a little bit.
Yeah, it's true.
For nature, I mean, for the ecosystem of which we're all a part, and we need that ecosystem to live.
Well, exactly. You know, like you said, in terms of taking out the blocks of certain, we're slowly disassembling the building blocks of nature that is the platform upon which we live and thrive. And whilst doing that, well, instant gratification for whichever reason, whichever building block is being taken out, instant gratification.
Yeah.
Like you said, you know, telling little Athena in, you know, 10 years' time, where did this go? Where did that? She's asking you, where did this go? Where did that go? It's pretty shocking, you know, to think what we are doing. And I think that we have to look at what we can do ourselves. And I'm in this, you know, this position on this TV show where one can sort of shift the light in various directions to various causes, and I like to make the most of that in the things that I've done. But really, especially now with the power of social media, we can all jump on something, and that saying, the world suffers a lot, not because of the violence of bad people, but because of the silence of good people, is so pertinent now, because everybody's got a voice now. It's on your two thumbs, you know, it's on your phone, it's on your computer. And I know you were going to ask me, what's the question you would have for the audience?
Yeah, I did. I would love you to ask the listeners and the viewers. I'd love you to put a question to them that they could answer on social media, and they could respond.
Well, my question is with that in mind, what is it that you're passionate about, that you want to raise your voice about, that you don't want to be silent about? Because there is a cause for everybody. And you can sort of think, well, I've just got this thing about butterflies, really, but nobody cares about that. You're like, no, if you care about it, someone else is going to care about
critical
it too.
Species. Another
critical species.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And my question to anyone in the audience is, you know, what are you passionate about? What are you not being silent about, you know? Or what are you presently being silent about that you don't want to be silent about, that you can raise your voice on? And I'm sorry, but this has again, social media. We can all bang on about, you know, inane nonsense that is generally banged on about it.
Right.
Or
what I had for lunch, and
here's a picture of my latte.
Yes.
We've all done that.
Look at the heart. They made a heart for me.
Yeah,
no one ever makes a heart.
Yeah, and we can raise our voices now in a way that we couldn't have done 10 years ago.
Yeah.
You had to really make some efforts, didn't you, 10 years ago? You had to be you. You had to go and make a film,
You had to you had to be insane and pick up used cooking oil and drive a veggie van.
Yeah, and it was a huge undertaking. But now you can,
Well, and here's what I love about you, Paul, and I just, I admire you. You're a great man. You're a beautiful human being.
Keep going, Josh. Keep going. I'll send this to my mum.
Yeah, here's what I love about you. It is the disruptive ones. It is the rebels. It is the people who are on the vanguard that really shift the needle.
It's true.
And we can all be that in whatever lives we lead. And that's what I love about your message is you have the power, people. You have social media. You have these tools. You can share this message. You can share the things that Paul has done. You can share the things that you're doing, the things that your friends are doing. It's all about putting the amplification on the right things.
And listen to your heart about this stuff as well, because authenticity goes an awful long way. When you start trying to emulate other people, like when you hear a band that sounds like they've listened to the Beatles, perhaps, and it just doesn't really hit you in a way, does it? Because you can tell there's an emulation thing going on. Listen to your heart, listen to your belly as to what you are passionate about, and just be authentic with it. Just speak with your own voice. As Tony Bennett said 100 years ago, if you want to be different, be yourself. All right? Don't try and be somebody else. Well, I want to be like Josh and make all these films. Or
you don't want to do that.
I'm going to swim the Shark Fest swim like Paul did.
Yeah.
Just like, well, great, do that if you want. But just come from an authentic place from within yourself as to what it is you're passionate about and how you want to convey that passion and raise awareness about that. Just use the voice that comes naturally to you to do that. Don't you think?
I think that's beautiful. 3 quick questions and then we're out. First question, what's your favorite animal?
Well, it's a toss-up, really, isn't it, between the big 3?
Well,
well, are rhinos or elephants or sharks? Oh gosh, it's just something about rhinos and elephants.
The others won't get offended, I promise.
Don't tell them.
You can just select one.
I'm going to say rhino.
Rhino. Beautiful, beautiful. The greatest mentor or teacher you've had in your life?
Well, it's a big mix, really, isn't it?
And it doesn't have to be somebody famous. It could be, a family member.
My English teacher, when I was 11 years old at a school, I was at Abingdon School, and he taught me a lesson one time. English was always one of my better subjects, writing stories and all that stuff.
You're good at it.
And he, one time I did this story, and I just badgered him because I wanted what was going to get a commendation for the part. So you could go to the head teacher and say, look, I got a commendation. And I was just obsessed with the result of having worked so hard on it. Like, I was obsessed with the result of all the praise and rewards I was going to receive with it. And in the end, he gave me the score, and he gave me 22 out of 25 without a commendation, which is absurd and totally unheard of. And I said, but sir, what about the commendation? And he said, well, it's not always about that, is it, Paul? It's just enjoy it for what it is. Just do it for what it is. Do it for the project itself. And I was like, oh yeah, I guess I was banging on about that a bit too much, wasn't I? So he just taught me that lesson. It's not necessarily about the result of it or the praise you're going to get for it. Just do it because you enjoy doing it, and work hard at it and do it. But don't do it because of, if I do it, I'm going to be praised, which is clearly why he saw me coming, the angle he saw me coming from. So that actually taught me a lot, actually.
Brilliant.
As well as, the Dalai Lama and people like that.
Yeah, those. Yeah.
The throwaways.
Yeah. Last question. Rolling Stones or Beatles?
Well, if you're asking me this question in 1972, I'd probably say the Rolling Stones. But have the Rolling Stones tarnished themselves or become something greater since then because of their longevity? I don't know, but it's not rock and roll anymore, is it? They're a good business.
Look, all good music is good business, right?
It's a tough one.
But when you're driving in your car and a song comes on, which one really moves you, Paul Blackthorne? Which one opens your heart? You talked about living from the heart. I think music, our passion.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a big part of who we are. We need to open our hearts. Music helps us open our hearts.
It does.
Which one opens your heart?
If I was going to take, well, you know, I'll do this. If I was going to take one Beatles album, it would be the White Album. If I was going to take one Rolling Stones album, I would take Beggar's Banquet.
Oh, great choices. Great stuff.
Those two will get you down the road, all right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Open your minds, open your hearts. Thank you so much. Facebook, YouTube, all of you beautiful, beautiful people out there. And not to mention those of you who are listening to the podcast in your car, as you work, as you do laundry. Wonderful that you're engaged in this conversation. We want to hear from you. We want to hear your comments. We want to hear your questions. We want to hear from you. So get engaged. Get on Facebook. Let us know. Answer Paul's question. What are you passionate about that you've been quiet about? Tell us your secret passion, the thing that you want to do in the world. I love you. Thank you all. Thanks for listening. See you next week. Thank you, Paul, for being on the show.
Thank you, Josh. You're a legend.
Welcome to the Big Picture Show with your host, Josh Tickell. We are the new media, so don't forget to like and share this podcast.